University of Agronomic Science and Veterinary Medicine, especially the Faculty of Management, and the Polytechnic University, represented by the expert in post-brew student activities, Gabriela Andreascu. We considered researching this subject because e-learning is a field of expansion for the university seen nowadays as a provider of teaching and learning services and as a market for attracting new students. And this aspect of attracting new students, new, let's say, customers, is something that has changed our point of view both on education and on developing our students' aptitudes. We aimed at providing them functional research and work skills and trying to shift their very functional skill of importing others' opinions and others' learning styles and claiming those are their own. So we started by not only investigating the e-learning platforms and their outcomes in point of measurable results.
Sorry, I think you shut down the mic, please check this.
Can't I just speak
right
louder?
No, it's okay.
I think it's a hip-hop mic, so we might
yeah, like that.
Like
Yeah, problem. Yeah.
Okay.
It's better.
It's closer to the mouth.
All right. So we investigated e-learning platforms, and my specialty being English teaching, I also tried to make a correlation between the international standard testing frameworks, especially as ascertained by the Common European Framework, part that is consistent with the language passport and the Europass documents generally, and the international English language testing system that the students want to access in order to widen their access to other types of learning, probably more focused on practical skills rather than the theoretical background of learning that Romanian universities provide. We identified e-learning platforms and the learning skills consistent with the language testing system for the English language specifically as good incentives for students to learn more and become more competent and better interacting with the labor market and having also wider opportunities of becoming employees of different firms. We also emphasized the idea that entrepreneurship should be one of the objectives of teaching our students, especially since a culture of entrepreneurship is lacking nowadays among our students. Not to mention the counterpart of this issue, not only are they not very competent, to be euphemistic, in entrepreneurship, but they are not very good at managing their own possibilities, their own resources, their self-management skills are an issue that has to be addressed in universities as well. We dealt with the European qualifications framework, identifying the credit system basics and the transferable skills that they need in order to face diverse teaching systems so that they can acquire both experience and knowledge from teaching approaches that are different from our own in Romania. We focused on asking for feedback in our focus groups, especially by mentoring graduate students, and business engineering. So we cultivate practical skills in our students. We identified basically from this step in our research the fact that the study skills still need perfecting, and when we are confronted with our freshman students, we see that they are very eager to accept and swallow whole the opinions provided by the others instead of building their own communication skills and their own opinions. In connection to the learning skills, we also approached CLIL, which is content and learning integrating content and language integrated learning, and this is a system especially addressed to subjects connected to science, and such subjects will be learned by the students via a foreign language. Usually it is English, but not always. We have CLIL programs in French, in Italian, in Spanish, in German. We tried to determine which aspects of our pedagogical approaches and which aspects of our didactics need to be perfected in order to construct dialogues with our students rather than probably impose our own points of view and try to cultivate much theory with less or no practical applications. The difficulties our students identified in e-learning for the area of business engineering, especially in this sector of building entrepreneurship skills, are, as we can see here, a vast majority, we can say, 62%, identified as an impediment the artificial situations in which they are required to practice their skills or build their skills or imagine their potential business to take shape. The situations seemed artificial and implausible, and this was also connected with the excess theory that we still teach and sometimes we seem to take refuge into, rather than building a constructive dialogue and leaving the floor for our students and then corroborate their opinions, thus cultivating some input in constructive criticism, which they seem to lack, especially around the second and the third year of study. Let me mention that the Polytechnic and our management faculty in the University of Agronomic Sciences last for a duration of 4 years of study instead of the mainstream Bologna framework with 3 years for the bachelor program. Less than the students we discussed, significantly less than the students we have so far discussed, identified the activities that aren't specific to the field or to their future career, and they still have to learn about them. So, in other words, they do not perceive a cultural horizon of entrepreneurship as useful for their development. They want to become narrowly specialized in certain fields, which can be one impediment in their future career, because the flexibility and the new trends emerging on the background of the crisis nowadays will demand that they should be able to face unpredictable contexts, and narrow specialization may not allow them to face those difficulties. They also identified staff turnover, I mean our teaching staff turnover, and as an impediment, because they didn't benefit from continuity in learning with the same teacher childish but not far from it, having the certain predilection for a certain teacher to guide them in a constant evolving approach throughout a number of semesters. In here, I'm sorry it's not quite visible, we identified the students that had reasons to resort to e-learning, and we identified their motivations for doing so, and many of them revealed to us that helping a family member know more about entrepreneurship would favor their small business, their small or medium-sized enterprise. So the family is working together as a team for accessing European funds, especially in our faculty, and they try to develop the family firm as a continuation of the household approach to the business. It revealed to us that the mentality was far more traditional than we expected. We investigated the master students in focus group, and we identified that they needed mentoring for structuring and restructuring their concepts as they went along, acquiring new ones and developing the mind map of the approach they wanted to pursue. We go on to the idea of mind maps because this was a component of the learning styles that was up to a certain point a difficulty for them, as many of them were used to producing, writing and paragraphs, importing others' opinions and constructing a discourse via copy-pasting opinions from different sources and then claiming at least the collage is their own, if not the components. And structuring the ideas in mind maps compelled them to take responsibility of their learning in a higher degree and made them interact with knowledge and make their own hierarchies and prioritize their own ideas. And this was a plus, but it was felt by them as challenging, difficult, time-consuming, and also easy to remember, of course, but they don't perceive the connection between the effort they invest in constructing a mind map, which is the effort of learning, and the easy to remember part that is a consequence because of their work. It is a consequence of their effort, of their intellectual gymnastics. We have here the visual organizers we mainly used, and many of them are correlated with that section of the IELTS and of the TOEFL test that requires simultaneously used learning skills, which some of our students do not use independently, and only one at a time, not to mention the simultaneous approach. In here, I am specifically referring to that section in the IELTS test that requires graph comment, comentariul de grafic, graph comment or map comment or pie chart comment. In other words, it requires the translation of information presented to them in visual form into words, into explanations, and kind of an essay presentation and they go along with what they think could be a good approach, ignoring the stages, yes, ignoring the stages of, the idea is lost. Okay. The stages of writing an essay comment. Okay. I move on to the conclusions that showed the increased effort on both our part as professors and on their part in order to build knowledge. And this is more intense via e-learning platforms with individualized feedback than it is in traditional lecture settings where they expect to passively learn and remember what we tell them. I'm sorry for the...
I'm sorry that I
No,
interrupted.
that's okay. I got the idea in the end. I'm looking forward to your comments, to your questions, and to sharing experience.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Zuzana Cismaș.